Thank you. And we have public comment for our first item on the agenda. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address. Okay, for the second time, anyone wishing to speak?
Evening, Commissioners. Bob Bamenik, Winona County Recorder, County Government Center, 177 Main, Winona. 2 weeks ago, I talked to you about some concerns about the transfer of the vital records, and I am really thrilled to come tonight and let you know of some very significant changes that I think will really enhance our service. We will be able to issue certified birth records at the License Center, at the Winona Mall, and that will be a second location. The main location will be at the county office building, so this is a first for us. It's been verified by Marine with the Department of Public Safety and also the Department of Health in Minnesota, Vital Records, and they both said that we have the basis that we were asking about to do that. I estimate that this will save 500 trips from the License Center at the mall to the county office building and then back. It's a great efficiency. If a party has a birth record, has an issue, for example, their baby boy Bamenik, and we need to get a name, we'll work with them on the amendment. It can be a tedious process, and there still are some today. Most of the time they come up when people are going for Social Security or some other retirement benefit. They can, however, come up during the process for a license, and if that does happen, so we don't slow down the overall speed of the License Center, which we're trying to improve, they will come and work with us at the county office building on that. That's not a quick fix. So we think that we've really worked out a good process. It's been supported by the county auditor. I'll be working with her. The License Center people are auditor employees, but they are also presently authorized to do birth records. So I'm coming tonight and letting you know that we have worked for this efficiency, and I want to thank Maureen for making the calls and doing the verifications that she did, and I'm very proud to let you know that I think we're bringing some efficiency to this process. Thank you.
Bob, thanks, Bob. Quick question for you. You said, I think you misspoke. You said slowing down the overall speed of the License Center. I've never heard anybody say that was a speedy process.
It's kind of twofold. They are working on some processing internally that we have hopes are going to speed it up. But you have to keep in mind that today we're doing some pretty sizable numbers of enhanced driver's licenses, and that process is one that takes considerably more time than just the former standard license. So the work they're doing is taking more time. But if you have a special need, and the one I pointed out, your first name is not on the birth record, and that still happens. There could be other typos, for example, and there are processes that are pretty detailed to get those corrected. If you have family members that are older than you living, that really speeds up the process. But it's not something that can very timely be handled at the License Center. So we'll deal with those downtown, and we'll do the absolute best we can to move it along. I hope that we're able to gain some efficiencies in the amount of time it's taking to service at the License Center, and I think that's the game plan of all of us. But thanks.
Well, on behalf of all the constituents that will not call me about extra trips, I thank you.
Thank you.
So,
But Bob, before you leave, thank you for, and Maureen, all the work to do this, to make us that one stop.
yes.
But with this real ID or whatever, what do we want to call it, enhanced driver's license or anything, I think we really need to educate the public of
do.
what,
Yes.
well, do we have like a checklist that maybe, we could print? Maureen, maybe I just haven't seen it.
We actually are working with the state, and they are providing us a list of what they want us to do to ensure we are properly communicating with the public in every fashion.
Okay.
They're giving that to us.
Okay.
Make sure we do it.
Okay, I don't know if that gives me a lot of confidence because I have the state of Minnesota and licensing has been a difficult task. But I've had some people ask just of late, and I say, I know it's a lengthy you have to have your birth records, social security numbers, and yeah, make sure you have it before you leave home.
One of the things we just did today is we're updating our information that's provided by phone. If you call Vital Records, you'll get some of this information. We're keeping one phone line with that information on it. We're also trying to get the information in more public places, out to more organizations, contacts. We're asking the news media for please some additional help on this. At present, the last 3 years, the number of certified birth records has increased 20% a year, and it all has to do with the driver's licenses. And the amount of money that the county gets for the amount of time that's spent are not in sync. So if we can make some progress on getting a little bit more of our special tax money returned, maybe we could take this issue on and following that.
Well, and a lot of people have them at home, but if they're just too, don't dig them out. I mean, hopefully they're in a safe place, but they need to dig them out and bring them with us instead of asking us to reproduce it for them.
What a lot of folks are bringing along is that complimentary one from the hospital that
not
has your footprint on it and, those little fingerprints, they're just beautiful. But that doesn't meet the legal requirements.
It's got to have that symbol, right? The raised symbol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, we need to continue doing the educating because it's,
Yeah.
I
And
think
we have additional media here tonight, new media, so
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, thank you, and I'm just really pleased with this. We put a lot of effort into it, and I think we at least have something that we can tell the public that there are some folks that are still going to have to make the trip downtown, but at least we've got a good start.
great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
thank you. For the third and final time, is there anyone wishing to speak before the board on any issue? Okay, I call the public comment period closed. Ask for a motion to approve the county board minutes of August 13th, 2000.
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob made the motion to approve, and Commissioner Meyer seconded. So any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor of approval of the minutes for August 13th, 2019 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, board minutes are approved. Acknowledge receipt of approved committee minutes, and we have the Economic Development Authority meeting from April 25th, 2019. Those are on page 161 of the agenda, if anyone's following the page numbers.
I'll move to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the Economic Development Authority minutes of April 25th, made by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Meyer. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor of approval, acceptance of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Accepted, excuse me. Consent comments and approval of agenda. Mr. Fritz? None. Commissioner Ward?
I have 3 items I would like to ask for future board action and one announcement, please.
Okay. Commissioner Meyer?
Nothing?
I have one announcement. Commissioner Olson?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Jacob?
Nothing for me.
And Attorney Sonneman?
Nothing for me either.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to consent comments. Is anyone moving any of those issues?
Any consent business, perhaps?
Consent business, yes.
Okay, do you have to have a
Motion
Is
to
that-
approve agenda?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, the approval of the agenda by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Meyer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Okay, consent business, Mr. Fritz.
Okay. Consent business, department recommendation, 7.1, approve renewal of Veteran Service Officer Operational Enhancement Grant Program Resolution and Agreement. 7.2, approve purchase of county boardroom furniture from Schmidt Goodman as best alternative value. 7.3, approve organizational structure, department, and fund name change resolution. 7.4, approve resolution moving vital statistics to county recorder. 7.5, approve monthly resolution. 7.6, authorize disposal of excess equipment. And 7.7, confirm payment of disbursements. That concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve, okay,
Second.
we have a motion to approve the consent business as read by Commissioner Jacob and seconded by Commissioner Olson. Any discussion of the consent business? All those in favor of approval of the consent business signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay, consent business is approved. Thank you. General business. We are receiving a SMIF, Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation update, and it starts on page 205 of your agenda, and Mr. Tim Penny is here with further information.
And here's some additional information
Yes.
for your review at your leisure.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Everyone here. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to give an update on the work of the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. I think I've been here virtually every one of the 12 years that I've been president of this foundation. As you know from our previous visits, we are a regional economic and community development foundation serving a 20-county region in south central southeastern Minnesota. The map of that region is on the back of the annual report that I just distributed. We're in the process now of compiling our 2019 annual report, and that'll be available on our website shortly. As you know, again, we invest in three key areas that we think are critical to the prosperity of the Southern Minnesota region. One is early childhood. I've often said that's a long-term bet in a quality workforce. If you get these young children ready to enter kindergarten on par with their classmates, they do well thereafter. If they come in behind, they often never catch up, and that's a real challenge for our education system and for our society as a whole. So there are a variety of programs that we offer in this area, always in partnership, collaboration with other groups that are working on these issues. One of those that we do have an AmeriCorps program where we hire up to 20 young people every year to work in typically Head Start sites. 3 of those are placed here in Winona County, traditionally year in and year out. We also do some grant making in this regard and have done grants to the Winona Early Childhood Initiative, the St. Charles Early Childhood Initiative, the Winona Public Schools. We also did a Quick Start grant to Heather's Child Care this last summer to help expand child care capacity there. We do literacy grants every year, up to 25,000 early reader books in partnership with Abdo and Capstone Publishing companies here in southern Minnesota. And over the last year and a half or so, about $12,000 worth of early reader books have gone to Riverway Learning Center, St. Charles Public Schools, and St. Matthew Community Preschool, all for reading programs focused on that preschool age population. And typically those books end up in the homes of these young children. We've also done early childhood provider training programs here in the county in the recent past. And then we do entrepreneurial support in a variety of ways. For example, we work with new immigrant minority entrepreneurs in a training program. In 2018, Rolling Stone Mini Mart, Integrated Hands Therapeutic Massage, and Jade Community Acupuncture were part of that. Whitewater Gardens was also part of a local foods training program that we offered. And 2 years ago, I believe it was, we did a Loan to the Bluff Country co-op here just a couple blocks down the street. And then we work very closely to help create community funds in small towns across the region. And about 3-4 years ago, St. Charles was added to that family of community funds. We're now up to 30 communities where we've helped to initiate those community funds, provide them some matching grants. I think in the case of St. Charles, in the last couple of years, we've done about $15,000 of matching grants for the programs and activities that they're engaged in for their community. We've also worked closely with Project Find, particularly in the new immigrant space. And we also, last year, worked with the city of Winona to bring forecast public art to the community to help conceptualize how public art can be part of economic development. So those are some of our recent activities in those three categories of work: small town communities, entrepreneurship, and early childhood. Again, I appreciate the support that we do receive from 20 counties here in south central, southeastern Minnesota. Our local support is about 10% of our annual budget of roughly $5 million of resources, but it's important because it demonstrates that partnership that we have across the region. Referencing back to our conversation in November, Commissioner Ward asked, would you bring the money and the programs and the services to Winona County without Winona's financial support? The answer is yes, of course. We serve a 20-county region, but we do appreciate the partnership that the support represents. Yes, ma'am.
You're open for questions?
Yes.
Thank you. I find it interesting, in your pamphlet here, affiliated funds.
Yeah.
I like the term catalyzing philanthropy.
Yeah.
So I've read articles and such, is small family budget is getting tagged many different ways. Is our philanthropic giving growing, or is it decreasing? And maybe it's growing in numbers, because it seems like the rich got lots of more money, but yet are we growing in numbers of people being philanthropic?
I think the short answer to that is yes, but the amounts, of course, vary significantly. What we are engaged in, we consider philanthropic giving, it's charitable giving, and most of that is going to be done to organizations that have a nonprofit status. That's one of the reasons we believe in helping small towns create community funds. Winona has a great community fund, as do the other 11 larger community or regional centers here in southern Minnesota. But we wanted to give smaller towns an opportunity to build that kind of endowment fund so they can invest in programming that's important to them. And so what we are trying to do with that approach, and we're up to 30 small towns in this region that now have community funds under our umbrella, is to inspire more philanthropic giving, because people then know that those dollars stay local and will serve local needs. So we provide some matching grants to help create endowment funds for these towns. If they make investments on an annual basis in something related to early childhood or entrepreneurship, we'll do a matching grant for that kind of a grant. They can do any number of things, but if they do something that's kind of in our wheelhouse, we provide matching dollars. All of that meant to incent this tax-deductible generosity on the part of residents in and around these communities.
Yeah. But of course, you got to make enough money to.
You got to make enough money to do it, yeah.
And that, for some people, that's getting more and more difficult.
Yeah, yep, it is. But what we do find in a lot of these towns is they'll maybe have an initial project that they know people will get excited about, and whether the check is for $10 or $100, that then gets folks in the habit of supporting that local community fund.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something that we need to teach our younger,
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Are there any other questions about our work? I'd be happy to field those questions. Obviously, if something occurs to you after I head back to Owatonna, you can reach out to me through the county administrator.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah. So I'm curious to know about the activity that you're doing trying to increase the amount of childcare, because that is a big deal.
We're in, yeah. We did some quick start grants to existing child care facilities to help them expand their capacity. And we announced, 10, 12 of those just before July. And we just announced yesterday about another 14 of those quick start grants. And that's just on the margins, helping existing facilities expand their capacity. We are working right now in 5, soon to be 6 communities to help them do some community planning around their child care shortage. What we have in terms of resources won't solve all of their shortage problems, but we at least will help move them in the direction of meeting those needs. Those communities are Albert Lee and Austin, where the shortage issue is enormous. And there's also a lot of diverse populations in those communities. We're working in Wells, Minnesota, a town of about 2,000, doesn't have a single child care provider in the entire town. So a real challenge there. We're working in Eagle Lake, which is near Mankato. It's somewhat of a bedroom community. We're working in Watonwan County, so that's 3-4 communities in the entire county because they have a huge shortage there. And then Waseca will be added later this year. So I'm calling these pilot programs because we're going to learn different things and different solutions in each of these towns. But then if we expand this program, and we're now setting aside resources to do that, the next tranche of 5 or 6 towns that we go into, we can provide some of the learnings from these initial communities.
Terrific, yeah. It's one of like.
We've got about 8,000 slots in southern Minnesota that are needed.
Yeah.
And it's not that these kids aren't going somewhere, but it may be that if they have 2 parents both working, it's different shifts. It may be relatives. It may be a neighbor down the street. We'd rather have a higher quality child care option for a lot of these families, and therein lies the shortage issue.
Yeah, and I think it's a workforce issue.
Oh, yeah.
If one parent has to stay home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it clearly
you can't
is.
find
And that's why in the last few years, I've been enormously pleased that the Chamber of Commerce in Minnesota and EDA directors on behalf of the local EDA board have really identified childcare as economic development and workforce challenge. So, we're doing about $1.5 million of resources every year. And I always say it's a supplement and a complement of what others are doing. But it's an area of great need. And so that extra $1.5 million across these 20 counties is helping to make a difference.
Thanks.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Ward.
With those communities you just talked about needing childcare, how many of those communities have assisted living or nursing homes? And I don't expect an
I think I can answer that.
A number of them?
I would say all, but if you go to Watonwan County, the smaller towns there would not have.
Right.
And so that'd be like 2 towns perhaps that don't. Eagle Lake does not have assisted living.
Yeah.
All the others would have some assisted living. And we are finding, and this is when we go in, we give them options to consider based on what resources they have. And so in some towns, it may be an unused wing of a nursing facility that they could use for that purpose. I'm not saying this is going to happen in Wells, but the bank in Wells checked with the county regulators and found out that the back space of their bank, a meeting room, bathrooms, a little kitchenette, could be licensed. And so I'm not saying they're going to do that, but they're at least thinking of something creative in a town that small that currently doesn't have any in-town childcare.
Well, I see a generational thing. The nursing home and assisted living people love small children, and children can learn from them and vice versa. And a lot of these assisted and nursing homes, they're not at capacity right now.
Yeah.
They're struggling to, so somehow, and they usually have kitchens.
Yeah.
And, food service and laundries and all the things that you need. So I guess it's just.
You're right, and it is an option, and it will work in some communities. And I know of instances across the state where that option has been pursued.
Yeah, because they're struggling for revenues too.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions or comments? I appreciate the update, and I appreciate the services. I know these are vital to our communities, so.
Thank you for your time. Always good to be with you.
Thank you. Safe travels home.
Yes. Don't get rained on in the convertible.
Watch out for
Okay.
deer.
Item 8.2, receive monthly finance and budget update for July. So, Mr. Moga,
Okay, we'll go over the July numbers. July numbers started, the beginning cash started at 12.2. Actual revenues were at 1.7. Actual expenses were 1.7. Ending cash was 12.3. For the year, started out at 14.1. Actual revenues were 10 million, and actual expenses were 11.8 million. Ending cash is 12.3. Variance in this is in the revenue fund / general fund would be a negative 1.6 compared to last year at a negative 1.5. If we go all the way down to the totals, it's, actually, we have a positive 2.4 compared to a negative 684,000 last year. A big variance there is actually the highway. A lot of highway revenues came in. You can see that the variance this year is 5 million compared to last year at 2.5. So that's your biggest, that's that big revenue rate there variance. I do want to point out in community services, we are running a negative cash at 981,000 at this point. If you have any questions on this document, let me know.
What was that balance a year ago?
That balance a year ago was about $1 million more than that, 1.8. So we're running about almost $1 million. And I just looked at this number this afternoon, and this is through August. Right now in August, we are about $1 million. Our cash balance is about $1 million ahead of where we were last year at the same point.
Making,
How far back can we go on collections?
Can only go back a year.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Any other on that document? Otherwise, we'll go to the summary cash flow. Beginning cash started at 18.6. Actual revenues were 27.6. Actual expenses were 25.3. Ending cash is 21 million. Variance, the negative 2.3 compared to the negative 684. Any questions on this document?
Not a negative 2
No, not a negative, no.
right, 2.3 million compared to a negative 684.
684, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, and then the summary budget for July, we're at 58% of the year. Looking at all the expenses, the only one that is actually over the 58% is human services at 63%. But also you'll notice that the revenues are at 56%, which the revenues all don't come in at an even amount. So that number is higher than it was in the past also. And the other point is interest. We budgeted 180,000. Right now we're at 213. We're ahead of where we are. Again, I keep on saying it, but that number is way below what we did have in interest up to 5-10 years going back. That used to be probably in the $1 million range. Any question on this document? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Pat.
Okay, we had some announcements and some requests for agenda items. Commissioner Ward?
Great. Agenda, I'll do my agenda items first. I received a letter from a constituent, Larry Graydon, and I think I need to ask the county attorney probably to weigh in on this. It's reflective of our heavy snowfalls this spring, winter, and where does the Good Samaritan policy, like somebody wants to assist somebody getting out of the ditch. There was a conflict, and I will share this with, I only have one copy that was in my mailbox, but there was a conflict between our staff, internal staff, telling Mr. Graydon, no, you can't pull that person out, and then he went down the road further, and somebody said, would you help this person out? So, and Mr. Graydon is asking, where does the Good Samaritan law and how does that impact this? So, if you want to read it and pass it down to, so Attorney Soderman, will you please look into that? And
I can respond to Mr. Graydon, have our office respond.
Okay.
And
Well,
do you want me
and-
to copy?
Yeah, well, then I
Or
guess
the
we
whole
need to
board, or-
decide from a, department, particularly probably highway or sheriff, if somebody's in the ditch, do you offer to help them?
And
or-
was this
This
a
occurred-
county staff person?
Yes.
that-
Over the
Sheriff's.
sheriff's office, went for the highway, gave them different
Oh.
recommendations.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think we
And so
just
we need to inform
kind of
them.
a general, right, okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
we'll take a look and.
Okay, and
all
then
right.
let us know what the outcome of.
That's what I got.
That is.
Yeah.
The-
So we really don't need an agenda item, we just
No,
need
but-
a report
Well, we need
back.
a report
A
back.
report back.
Yeah, not
I
an
will-
agenda
So
item,
everybody knows.
right.
Report back, right.
Right.
Okay,
Please.
thank you.
The next item is, we were offered an update by the attorney for the Daily lawsuit. I guess I would like to have some kind of just a conference call would suffice me to have some idea, what is the process, where are we at in the process, what is a, expected timeline.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I don't need them to come in person, but if we could just set up a closed session conference call.
Okay, so you second it?
I second it, yeah.
Okay.
So I would say as soon as possible. I mean, it could be with, not a special meeting, but with our one of our next board meetings.
Impossible to get in.
I won't be here on September 10th, but, I mean, if you wanted to schedule it, that I could have one of my assistants there, so.
Okay. All right.
Be fine.
Yeah, if that would work, the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then the last thing, I know we're going to be asked to vote sometime in the near future on jail, and I do keep reading letters to the editor and comments from the public about the transport issue. And to my knowledge, we have not asked, in particular, Houston County, who we're using the most, if they would at all be interested in providing us with a contract for transport. I've heard I've heard anecdotals, and I've heard that it costs too much, but I haven't heard from Houston County if that's something that they would even entertain some type of contract. So I would like to know that. To me, it's an important part of the jail building process. So.
Well, yeah, I can see that, and without getting into discussion on it, why only Houston and not Wabasha?
We could do both.
I mean,
Both would probably be better than not. And again, we don't need the details, but, would they entertain something and be willing to work on something?
I think that sounds like a sound business decision that, given where we're at in the process. If you're asking for a second on a future
Right.
agenda item? Or?
Yes, we'd have to probably put it at an agenda item to draw out exactly what we would be asking them for.
Could I ask a clarifying question? I mean,
Sure.
we negotiate with Houston County for the jail space, basically. And so it would, what you're at least proposing, exploring would be a similar kind of contract, but it would also, I mean, I think that the Sheriff Ganrud, you'd want to contact or have him be part of this, because it doesn't just involve a business decision, it involves security and liability. And I think the sheriffs of the respective counties should be contacted, and maybe you can ask,
Right now, I guess I just need to ask to put it on a future agenda item, and then we'd probably maybe have that discussion.
or maybe to be more efficient and with time, you could ask or direct, County Administrator Fritz to contact Sheriff Ganrud and get a presentation about that as part of that, rather than just saying, we need this information, we can get you that information as part of that
And
discussion.
I don't want to spend a lot of time if they don't want to even entertain it.
Well, that's why I thought, I mean, maybe
yeah.
I'll start pushing
Go
the
ahead.
button, but I was along with what Karen was saying was, I can work with the sheriff to contact them, see if they're interested. If they are, we can talk about the terms and so forth, bring that presentation back. And then with not a final thing or anything, but just
Right.
the information.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
And then you
I
guys
need
can
some
decide.
information. I need some more concrete than, no.
So administration will start the process and bring the information back to us. Did you have something to add or to ask
Well-
Commissioner Jacob?
Commissioner Ward brought it up. I seconded it. You're the third person to speak on it. That becomes a meeting that's a violation of the open meeting law on your part.
No, it's not. It's-
Yes, it
no.
is,
No.
by your advice to us.
No, this
And all I'm
is
saying
a
is-
discussion of an
That's
item
That's
as
probably where
to,
we would have got when it came on the agenda, was an opportunity for us to discuss the administrator and you.
I'm suggesting a procedure that might be followed to make it more efficient for the
I
board
agree-
to
I
consider
agree
this.
with everything you
So,
said,
it is not
but
an open meeting violation.
If I did that, the third one, I would have been advised that that's what the future agenda items are for, and that's why we have two commissioners bring them up. And, well,
But we'll
I
go
feel
with.
like you're at a different standard than I
We'll
am.
go with Mr. Fritz,
We'll go
working
with
with
the
the
plan
sheriff
that
and contacting both Houston and Wabasha at this time.
Okay, anybody else? I don't see any
No,
lights.
I'm trying to understand. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then an announcement, Pickwick Mill Day. We have one of the last standing, totally operating mills, Pickwick. Their mill day is September 7th. You can go have pancakes, listen to old-time music, see this, they actually run the water wheel at certain times of the day, and have some other local activities. So if you want to see a stone grinding mill, it works.
Thank you. Okay, I had a letter in my mailbox. I have an announcement, actually. We're invited to attend the ribbon-cutting ceremonies on the Veterans Court. And this is a regional court, and the ribbon cutting is at 10:30 at Owatonna and at 1:30 in Preston on September 20th. It's also National POW MIA Recognition Day, and the Minnesota Supreme Court Justice Lori Gilday will be there. So just to let us know that this is officially opening, even though they've been meeting and working some things out. We even had a meeting where we participated here by CCTV. So they really are moving along, and this would be nice to support. It's nice to support these kinds of initiatives. So we have an invitation there. That's all I have. And I think that's all we had among
Move to
all
adjourn.
of us. All right, any?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that adjournment was made by Commissioner Jacobs, seconded by Commissioner Olson. Thank you.